Hello and welcome to The Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is co-founder of The Gaggle, Peter Lavelle, host also of RT's talk show, Crosstalk. Well, it seems like old times are back. It looks like, Obama years have returned to America. We have a crisis at the border, complete chaos, uncontrolled immigration, and mass shootings have made a comeback, very much a feature of the Obama years. And in particular, the most recent shooting that took place in Boulder, Colorado yesterday, the shooter apparently was a Muslim and an ISIS supporter. He has already been charged with 10 cases of murder in the first degree. And again, very much Muslim terrorism, Muslim mass shootings were a feature of the Obama years. There are obviously many aspects to this. One feature that is quite striking is how the media playing this shooting as opposed to the way they played last week's shootings in Atlanta. Our viewers will remember that was front page day after day, news story after news story, because the media wanted to play up that this is a white man shooting Asians driven by anti-Asian racism, anti-Asian animus, that was incited by Donald Trump. Because Donald Trump, who stoked all these anti-Asian feelings because of his references to the China virus and Kung flu and the rest of it. Of course, the media didn't want to present the truth, was that this very troubled and extremely disturbed young man was driven by all kinds of religious obsessions and sexual obsessions, which is why he frequented massage parlors and why he was driven by this.
Let's say the truth. No one wants to say the obvious. He likes Asian girls.
Exactly. But in this case, it's taken a long time even to find out that this person, 21-year-old man, is a Muslim. And he clearly was driven by politics. Now, obviously, one doesn't want to make any kind of generalizations about Muslims and so on. A mass murder is a mass murder. That says nothing about the Muslim faith or the billions of Muslims around the world. The one problem that does arise is, particularly when somebody like that expresses his ISIS sympathies, is that many people who live in the Middle East then say, yeah, you see what we're talking about? These are the people that we have to deal with in Syria, in Iraq, in Lebanon, and we have been fighting them. And it is you, Americans and Westerners, who have been sponsoring these exactly type of killers, fanatics, completely filled with hysterical rage. And you're quite happy to fund them, and as long as they're doing the killings over here in Syria, but you don't like it when it happens in your own backyard. Anyway, Peter, what's your take?
Well, Europe is experiencing that all of the time.
Exactly, absolutely.
And a number of these mass shooters that have been in the Middle East, been trained, been in conflicts, and then those are the ones that get radicalized, as they like to say, in the Western world. No one wants to say the obvious truth. Is just as exactly as you put it there. This scourge, it's because it's what it is. It's a scourge. It's vile, and it's tolerated and promoted in some parts of the world. But when you bring it home, oh, the horror of it all. Okay, for me, that has been very frustrating, and they've never been able to deal with the Muslim angle because they won't want to make generalizations and all of this. No, this ideology is vile. Okay, it's obvious. Say it.
That's it. Yeah, absolutely.
And we have, because thank goodness for WikiLeaks, we know that Hillary Clinton, when she was Secretary of State, we need to sponsor these people. Okay.
Mhm.
in the Middle East, particularly in Syria. So they know what they're doing here. But one of the things, kind of more broadly speaking, when we look at mass shootings in the United States, why is it particularly in the United States? I mean, there are incidences that I think there was that one big one in Norway a few years ago. In the UK, we have in France as well. But the U.S. is really plagued by it, And I think personally, the way I look at it is that it's a sense of desperation. And because we have the Second Amendment to be able to own and bear arms, this is a way people show their rage and their anger. I mean, there's a lot of people that are very despondent right now for a wide variety of reasons, but they are most of these people are middle class people, and they've seen their whole lives shredded in front of them, and they have this feel of desperation, and they lash out. Okay, and there's no recognition of that. Why? See, I don't have a problem with guns. No, I have a problem with how people use guns and why are they using guns in that way. Okay, they always point to the guns. I don't. I'm not a big gun fan personally. Okay, but I believe in the Second Amendment, and people should be able to practice it. But it's a sense of desperation, of loneliness, isolation, a culture that is completely vacuous of any real values, even though they talk about values endlessly. They don't have a culture that provides meaning for people. Well, look at Netflix, okay? I mean, it's the most nihilistic culture you can ever imagine. It's nihilistic, it's narcissistic. And when you see, I mean, one of the things that's really interesting, some reports that have come out in the last weeks or so, is that the economic impact of the economic turndown because of the pandemic is that we had with a stimulus package, which really doesn't stimulate much, but with all of this money being thrown out, what is it going to do? It doesn't structurally change the economy. It was in bad shape before it, but now what they've done is they've supercharged this economic structure, and it's going to get far, far worse because the people, if you're on the one side of benefiting from the way the economy changed, working at home and things like that, you actually save money. A lot of people have saved money. But if you're on the other side, it's more bleak than ever before.
Right.
And so, as I always tell people, stay away from the macro numbers. It doesn't tell you anything of what's going on. And certainly don't look at the stock market, okay? But what I believe that we're going to see another spike in these mass shootings because of just desperation, seeing no future ahead of you. And it's really hit the middle class. It's hit what used to be the industrial heartland, okay? This is the type of people that are being impacted. You get substance abuse, there's narcotics everywhere, alcoholism, suicide is there. We have this guy in Atlanta that has some kind of weird sex addiction because that is, people are trying to find something that gives meaning to them. Unfortunately, they find the really vile things that don't fill your life whatsoever. And it actually screws you up, as this guy apparently was, from what we know.
Right.
Okay, we're going to learn more about what happened in Boulder. I actually spent my childhood in Boulder. I'm sorry, in Colorado. Their perceived values are.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, I think those are all very good points. Yeah, there is a sense of desperation. There is the terrible social problems, the sort of the word that used to be fashionable, but it's kind of gone out of fashion: alienation and enemy. People sort of lost,
It's very real.
from their cultural moorings, lost from any sense of a community, any sort of community values. You have an elite liberal culture that has nothing but disdain for common people, their interests, their habits, their way of life. So they're basically treated as dispensable, useless people, if not worse, actually despicable people. So all of that kind of feeds into the mentality of young men, and it is very striking because it is young men, and if you're young, and then all that's ahead of you is just desperation. There's nothing. There's nothing to look forward. There's no life that somehow, well, okay, things might be bad now, but 5 years down the road, things will be better. I mean, when you don't feel that, and you've got a long life ahead of you, then people do get desperate, and that's when you get not just mass shooting, but at a different level, the substance abuse, all kinds of antisocial behavior, and yeah, I mean that it is definitely getting worse. So all the happy talk, oh, America's back, or American economy is doing well, or whatever, it doesn't do anything for the millions of young men who just feel who have a kind of a void at the center of their lives and have nothing but despair to look forward to.
See, when you have a crisis, I mean, we can look back at the Great Depression, and you and I have talked about FDR and the New Deal, and the New Deal was kind of mediocre at the end of the day, but that was the economic output. But the sense of belonging was there, which is so very important in a culture. We had a president that kept trying to do something. It didn't always work out, sometimes rarely worked out, but there was a sense that, we're coming together to go overcome this. We don't have that right now. And when I look at I don't want to sound like just some kind of libertarian and looking at this stimulus package, but what it does is it's reinforcing the structural problems of the economy. It's not addressing it. Okay, and culturally, what we've had for decades now is this diminishing young men in masculinity. That it's frowned upon. It is something that needs to be fixed. It has to be gotten rid of, and this again creates a great sense of alienation. Because you're basically saying your very being is a mistake and we have to deal with it. And
I think
the message, I mean, Jordan Peterson talks a lot about this and how young men are brought up and how they're discarded. They're not focused on enough.
Right. No, I think it's a very good point.
Antisocial behavior.
No, that's a very good point. And you get this very much in the school system that is actually organized to be very anti-male. And that's one of the reasons why boys are continually doing poorly in the U.S. education system, because this is not a school. The school system is not friendly toward males. You look at the reading list. I mean, the reading list is all about the horrors that particularly white men inflict on women, or what white men inflict on colored people. And this is what young men grow up with, and they do feel that, hey, there's something wrong with me. There's some terrible genetic defect that I have for being a white man.
But it's so ahistorical. It is not true. I mean, if we look at the modernization of the economy, I'll be very liberal on this one. Let's just go like up to the 1850s. Up to then, everybody was treated badly. Men, women, people of color, everybody had a hard time of it. Everybody. And you know what? Is one thing so people just don't want to recognize is that a man and a woman, a husband and wife, after all the horrors that we've been through, we're still together. Okay. I mean,
but there was a difference, and the difference is if people can believe in progress. Because one of the things about the 19th century, you can read Dickens and the world that
Upton Sinclair.
But there was still a belief that things were going to get better, because of industrial progress, the wide-scale reformist legislation. Life would get better.
Literacy.
Get better.
Yeah.
And so, but there's no longer any feeling like that. And I think that's really where the problem arises, that there is a sense of desperation. People do not think they have a future to look forward. They do not think that they're going to be more prosperous than their parents. In fact, they're pretty bloody sure that they will be much poorer than their parents. And that's actually the difference. It's just, standard of living today may be higher than it was 100 years ago, but there isn't any sense of that things are going to get better, that there's progress is something that's a reality.
Yeah, and if you look at academia, where I spent many years, there was this sense this need to balance out the two genders in professorships and head of departments and all of that. Which I had no real problem with at all. I mean, it seemed fair to me. But if you look at it now, is it fewer? You have more women in undergraduate and graduate programs than you have men now. It's very obvious, okay? And if you look at where money is spent, it's again promotion. Well, I'm not against promotion of women, but I do believe in equality. I don't believe in equity. But don't go overboard here, because it creates a sense of alienation. And when I was in academia, there was I wouldn't say a war, but there was hostility to male culture and male hegemony. And with that, when I was in graduate school, that's when I started hearing that kind of language. Now it's part of the popular culture here. But everyone has to be there. Everyone's needs have to be addressed here, and they're not being addressed. And unfortunately, there is a history of young men lashing out using force, and particularly in the United States when firearms are so prevalent. Okay, that's where we have to start dealing with it. But you can look at this young man in Atlanta, and you can look at this young man in Boulder. Now, their motives may be very different, but I would guarantee you that they both probably had a great sense of alienation and probably exposure to antisocial behavior.
Right. The thing is that you have this political culture that is extremely. It's a liberal political culture. That for a variety of reasons is very anti-white, very anti-male. It has something to do with the Democratic Party and what the Democratic Party identifies as their core support, and how they need to constantly generate hysteria among their core supporters in order to stay in power, which is why they keep regurgitating over and over again the theme of racism is prevalent. I remember with when Biden, when he said, I think 2012 or whenever, he talked about they all want to put you back in chains. They constantly, this is the demagoguery. And so you have basically a kind of a liberal political culture that says that the enemy, the most violent, the most horrible people imaginable are white Americans. Not to say even male. I mean, the male, obviously, they're the worst, but generally white Americans, white poor Americans, the sort of people who stormed the Capitol on January the 6th, the sort of people who vote for Donald Trump. So again, they hate them because they vote in the wrong way. And so therefore, I mean, and you have the Justice Department. The Justice Department is now completely, there's not doing anything right now other than building more and more charges against more and more people whom they regard as the enemy. I mean, this is the enemy. These are the white people who are Trump supporters. So now there is talk that they're about to bring sedition charges, sedition over what was obviously a riot that went wrong. And actually managed to disturb the Capitol Hill for about several hours, because within a few hours, everything was back to normal and everyone's working normally. But they're bringing sedition charges, conspiracy charges, because they've identified as the enemy. These are the most dangerous, most violent people in the world.
Yeah, well, I was, and in one of our previous podcasts, I couldn't come up with the term, but star chamber trial. That's what I was trying to remember. Right. And if you throw sedition in there, you can bet your bottom dollar it's going to be a star chamber. Okay, that's what they need. You're absolutely right. I mean, to keep their coalition together, let's just spell it out for everyone. So white men oppress women, of course, Hispanics, Asians. I guess always you have to throw in the gay community. Right. And so that's the glue that keeps them together, okay? Right. The perceived oppression of people that look like you and I. Right. Though I would always submit, and I always throw back, is that why are you stereotyping people? We're not all the same. Does this seem to ring a bell, George, in your lifetime?
All right, but okay. That's right. But that's how they play the politics. And of course, the master practitioner of this type of politics was Barack Obama. Because you remember Barack Obama at the time of the shootings at, I think, the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, Florida. Horrible shooting, 50 people were killed, Obama, played up, and I think he still does it to this day, played up as this is an act of homophobia. This is all about the persecution of gays. It's all about, again, these awful, white, horrible people with all their ignorant anti-gay prejudices. Now, it turned out that the person who committed the killings was not white himself. He was originally, his family was from Afghanistan. He was an Islamist, and he didn't even know that this was a gay nightclub. He wanted to shoot up a nightclub. He wandered into this one. He didn't know that this was a gay nightclub, so he wasn't even motivated, even though he, a Muslim, was not motivated by anti-gay prejudice. But Obama has continued to play this up, that this was an act of hatred for homosexuals.
Yeah, and the same thing with the case in Atlanta, is that this guy was some kind of hatred of Asians. Okay, I mean, when you look at CNN and MSNBC, that's what they, for 2 news cycles, they just played that over and over again. And that has nothing to do with reality whatsoever. The only thing that is true is that he committed an atrocity. He shot people. Okay, but the motives were never. They never went into what the motives possibly could be. Even I think it was a DA or a deputy DA came out, and he was bewildered by this narrative. No, we're still investigating it. Like where did they get this story from?
Right. But that is the amazing thing. I mean, it's like, how many news stories did the New York Times and the Washington Post run just on this issue of anti-Asian bigotry, anti-Asian violence, and all of which was perpetrated by white people. Now, anyone who kind of looks at crime statistics in the United States, the crimes that are committed against Asians are nearly always because of African American, because
yes,
Asians have stores in inner cities. They're easy targets. It's not like a bank. I mean, banks are hard to rob, but delis, takeouts, they're very easy to rob. That's why they are the targets of crime.
Except for in Los Angeles.
Right.
Oh man, I still have some of those images seared into my memory of, there was I don't know if it was a restaurant, but it was run by Koreans, and a lot of these operations are mom and pop. The family works there. Maybe they're first generation immigrants, whatever. Okay, but they came out because of the Second Amendment, and they came out with their guns.
Well, that's it.
Nobody bothered them.
Right, exactly. That's exactly right. I mean, that's right. And so when you put in policies that ban guns, no gun-free zone, then of course these already vulnerable targets become even more vulnerable, because it's very easy. There's as you say, it's a mom and pop store. You hold them up, boom, you're out of there. I mean, it's not. Not rob a bank. Robbing banks is very hard. But this is pretty easy.
I was in Southern California when the war in Indochina came to an end, and we had what was called then boat people. My brother actually married a Chinese girl from Vietnam, and I have absolute admiration for the Asian community. So many of them came with almost nothing. Yes, they did. They were given assistance when they arrived. Yes, they did. But what a community that pulls itself up by the bootstraps. It's pretty amazing. Okay, so there's also the element of jealousy. I mean, here are people that came from a foreign country, can maybe have not learned English very well, but they've learned to take care of, and they don't look for handouts. They want to take care of themselves. Okay, and and that's something that a lot of people are suspicious of, because why are these people insular? Why do they help each other with their families? I mean, one of my brother's wife is named Chow, and she said, "What do you need Social Security for? We have the family." Think about it.
Right. No, that's exactly right, and that's why the story of this rampant anti-Asian hatred on the part of white Americans was completely fraudulent. But the media wanted to run with the stories because they need more and more anti-Trump stories. I mean, obviously they're all suffering terribly in this post-Trump era. I mean, they're getting absolutely killed because no one's going to the New York Times sites or the Washington Post sites anymore because Trump is gone. So they need to keep generating these Trump stories. So they seized on this to make this a story about, oh, Trump's evil influence on white Americans. And again, if this one, because they don't want to play up the Muslim angle. Again, Muslims tend to be, much more Democrat voters, so they don't want they're going to try and minimize it. So they're going to play up the gun angle, gun control angle. But again, what do? They start attacking law-abiding gun owners. Well, law-abiding gun owners are not the problem. People own guns. Like as you described, these Asian store owners, they own guns for self-defense.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
they're not the problem.
They're not like going out for a target practice.
Exactly.
It's real self-defense.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
And they know their own communities. They know who may have animosity towards them, may want to hurt them financially, physically. They're prepared. I mean, again, those images in my head. Getting up on the roof there and saying, "You want to come? Come, okay? Seriously, don't mess with those people." No, but you're right, George. I mean, there's a real sense of melees right now. It's very, very real. And as the economy, quote unquote, takes off, because it's going to take off for some people, it's not going to take off for a lot of other people. And the intense anxiety that so many millions of people have is only going to get worse. I really am worried about that.
No, I think so, and I think that it's going to be the Obama era is back with us. All that's missing is missing girls in Nigeria, and we'll feel right at home. All right, Peter. Thank you very much. Remember, we are on Rumble. Look us up on Rumble, and if you like the gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye.